Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty huge. We're looking at a company called the EST Group, and they have a goal that sounds like it's straight out of a movie. They want to build an entirely new world economic order.
And right off the bat, the source material hits you with this: reclaiming the cover, forging a legacy of repeated triumphs. I mean, talk about a bold statement, right? This really sets the stage for some serious ambition. This is not a company that's thinking small. And that ambition, it's spelled out plain as day. The documents literally say their mission is to build a new world economic order, getting rid of all old silos. So we're talking about a fundamental, from the ground up reset of how our economies actually function.
Okay, but that's a massive claim, isn't it? What does that even mean in the real world? How does one company even start to build something like that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this explainer. So let's dive in. Their whole vision kicks off with what they call a new sustainable agenda, one that's supposedly built on a system of regenerative value. And to really get what they're trying to build, you first have to understand what they think is broken. So what are the problems their model is designed to fix? And the issues they point to are huge. The documents argue that stakeholder capitalism has basically decayed into exploitation, that neoliberal ideas have chipped away at workers' rights, and that we're seeing these backward trends in trade and taxes. All of this, they say, points to one thing: we need a great reset.
Now, to give their mission some real-world grounding, they anchor it to a pretty big framework: the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. They specifically call out goals like SDG 2, the one about ending hunger, which is a huge clue. It tells you right away that agriculture and rural economies are absolutely central to their entire model.
So we've seen the problems they're targeting, but what's the solution? This is where it gets really interesting, because we're moving beyond just a business model and into a whole new philosophy.
At the very core of their ideology is this concept they call digital socialism. So what's that? Simply put, it's about using modern tech to shift economic power. Instead of a top-down, centralized system, they want to use digital platforms to make ownership and decision-making more collective and democratic. And the tool they propose for this is something called a DAO, a Democratic Digital Autonomous Organization. You know, the easiest way to think about it is like a high-tech cooperative. It uses tools like the blockchain to let an entire community manage its own resources and make decisions together, transparently and without some central boss calling all the shots.
And this leads to a really crucial shift they're trying to make. They're moving away from what they see as a failing model of stakeholder capitalism towards something they call participative capitalism. For them, this new way is much more interactive and dynamic. It's about building a system that can actually regenerate itself, especially in rural areas, and turning people into active participants.
Okay, so a big philosophy is one thing, but how does this all work in practice? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how the EST Group is actually structured to turn these big ideas into reality.
Their entire vision is built on 4 interconnected pillars. Think of them as the action centers. You've got financial inclusion, rural transformation, tech-driven healthcare, and education. This is how they're putting the theory into practice.
Pillar 1 starts with financial inclusion. And the logic is simple. You can't be part of a new economy if you're locked out of the old one. So they're going after this with a neo-bank for underserved communities, a global payment wallet, and they're also building on their existing platform, Branch X, which already helps migrant workers. It's all about creating access.
Pillar 2, rural transformation, is where that idea of participatory capitalism really starts to take shape. Through a project called EST Agrx, the goal is to create what they call islands of economies, basically self-sufficient rural economies. And a key piece of this is another initiative, Carbon Treasure, which is all about showing farmers how sustainable farming can actually generate income through things like carbon credits. It's about turning them into direct economic stakeholders.
Pillar 3 is all about the tech. This is the modern infrastructure for their new economy. We're talking about everything from automated remote healthcare platforms, to autonomous robots for industry, to AI systems that can redefine quality control in manufacturing. The whole idea is to equip these communities with cutting-edge tools.
And that brings us to the final pillar, education and community, which ties everything together. Because this isn't just a business, it's about building a knowledgeable community. They're doing it with digital literacy platforms, learning management systems used in hundreds of schools, and a collaborative platform where users are treated as partners.
This is how they plan to grow the ideology from the ground up.
And to give you a sense of scale here, this isn't just theory. Their digital literacy platform, EST FAB, has already partnered with over 32 universities and colleges. So they're already making some pretty significant inroads.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've seen the problem, we've looked at the philosophy, we've gone through the four-part plan. What's the big picture here? What is this all really about? When you boil it all down, this whole complex structure is really just a giant experiment. It's trying to prove one central idea, that you can be profitable and create positive social change at the same time. It's an attempt to fuse the engine of capitalism with a real social conscience.
And that, of course, leaves us with the big, provocative question. Is this incredibly complex, deeply integrated model a real blueprint for the future of capitalism? Or is it a dream that's just so vast, so ambitious, that it might be impossible to ever fully pull off? That's the thought we'll leave you with.